The Great Hall on Nexus Prime had never seen such celebration. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of relief that echoed off the crystal walls. For 200 years, the galaxy had lived in fear. Now, finally, the war was over. Ambassador Cretiage of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the golden podium, his forearms raised high above his scaled head. His yellow eyes swept across the crowd as silence fell. "Today marks the end of the longest conflict our galaxy has ever known," he announced, his voice carrying to every corner through translation devices. "The Zephyrian Empire and the Karate Federation have put aside our differences. We choose peace." The crowd erupted in cheers. Beings of all shapes and sizes celebrated together. The bird-like Ethans flapped their colorful wings. The rock-skinned Borathai stamped their heavy feet. The jellyfish-like Voidians pulsed with bright colors. All of them had suffered during the long war between the two great powers. On the other side of the stage, Admiral Thessika of the Karate Federation stepped forward. Her blue skin glowed softly as she spoke. "This treaty means more than just an end of fighting. It means a new beginning for all of us. Our fleets will no longer burn worlds. Our children will know peace." The Treaty of Nexus Prime lay open on the ceremonial table between them. Its pages contained detailed maps showing how the contested sectors would be divided. The Zephyrians would keep the eastern spiral arms with their rich mining worlds. The Karate would control the western sectors with their strategic trade routes. Neutral zones would separate their territories. It seemed fair to everyone watching. General Vexhai, commander of the Zephyrian War Fleet, felt strange as he watched the ceremony. For most of his life, he had known only war. His ships had fought in the Battle of Crimson Nebula, where 3 million beings died in a single day. He had seen entire star systems turn to ash. Now his weapons would be silent. Part of him felt relief, but another part felt empty. What did a warrior do when there was no war to fight? Captain Mordak of the Karate Federation shared similar thoughts. Her tentacles writhed nervously as she remembered the siege of Kallos Prime. 50,000 of her soldiers had died taking that world, only to lose it again 6 months later. The cycle of attack and counterattack had gone on for decades. She was tired of watching young soldiers die for small victories that never lasted. The peace talks had taken 3 years to complete. Both sides were exhausted. The Zephyrian Empire had lost 40% of its fleet. The Karate Federation had used up most of its resources. Their home worlds were struggling to feed their people. The smaller nations in the galaxy had suffered even more. Some species had been wiped out completely when their worlds became battlefields. As the ambassadors signed the treaty, news reports spread across the galaxy at light speed. On 1,000 worlds, beings watched the ceremony and wept with joy. Refugee camps began planning their return journeys. Trade ships prepared to use routes that had been closed for generations. Diplomats spoke of cultural exchanges and scientific cooperation. The Zephyrian Empire controlled over 3,000 star systems. Their technology was among the most advanced in the galaxy. Their ships could travel faster than light, and their weapons could crack planets. They had ruled their territory with strict order for 5,000 years. The Karate Federation was younger but just as powerful. They had grown from a small alliance of trading worlds into a mighty empire in only 2,000 years. Their strength came from cooperation between many different species. Their fleets were smaller than the Zephyrians, but their ships were tougher and their crews more creative. Both empires had fought over the contested sectors, a region of space rich in rare minerals and perfect for new colonies. Neither side could claim victory there. The war had become a grinding struggle where both sides bled resources without gaining lasting advantage. Now, with the treaty signed, both empires could focus on rebuilding. The Zephyrians planned to develop new colonies in their expanded territory. The Karate wanted to strengthen trade relationships with neutral worlds. The smaller nations hoped to grow strong again under protection of the peace treaty. But in a small spiral arm far from Nexus Prime, on a blue world orbiting a yellow star, other beings watched the ceremony with great interest. They were primitive by galactic standards. They had only recently learned to split atoms and had just begun to explore their own solar system with crude rockets. The humans of Earth had been listening to radio signal from space for decades. Their scientists had built powerful telescopes to study the stars. They had detected the energy signatures of the great space battles, though they did not understand what they were seeing. They knew intelligent life existed beyond their world, but they had no way to contact it. Dr. Sarah Chen worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Chile. She had spent years tracking the strange signals that came from the direction of the Galactic Center. The pattern suggested massive technology at work, but Earth's computers could not decode the alien communications. Tonight was different. The signals were stronger than ever before. Dr. Chen's equipment detected what seemed like celebration across multiple star systems. Energy patterns that had been chaotic for decades suddenly became organized and peaceful. Something important had happened out there. "The war is over," she whispered to her empty laboratory, though she had no proof of this conclusion. She just felt it in the way the signals had changed. Whatever conflict had been raging among the stars had finally ended. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings went to sleep that night feeling safe for the first time in generations. Parents told their children that the terrible war was finally over. Soldiers put away their weapons and began to think about going home. Merchants planned new trade routes through spaces that had been too dangerous to enter. None of them gave any thought to the small blue world in the outer spiral arm. Why would they? Its inhabitants had not even achieved faster-than-light travel. They were thousands of years behind galactic civilization. They posed no threat to anyone. The galaxy was at peace, and the great powers had divided the spoils of war between themselves. The Treaty of Nexus Prime would ensure stability for generations to come. At least, that was what everyone believed. But humans had been watching. They had been learning, and they had been preparing for the day when they would no longer be alone in the dark. 3 months after the Treaty of Nexus Prime, the peace was holding well across the galaxy. Trade routes were reopening and refugee fleets were returning home. The great powers were busy rebuilding their damaged worlds and counting their remaining resources. Life was slowly returning to normal. Commander Vexhai of the Zephyrian Empire felt restless aboard his flagship, the Iron Talon. After 2 centuries of constant warfare, peacetime duties felt strange. His orders were simple: explore and map the outer territories that now belonged to the Empire under the new treaty. It was boring work, but necessary. His current mission took him to a small spiral arm that had been ignored during the war. The region contained only a few dozen star systems with nothing particularly valuable. No rare minerals, no strategic positions, no advanced civilizations. Just empty space that needed to be officially claimed and catalogued. "So, we are approaching the target system," reported Lieutenant Koltar from a navigation station. Long-range scans show 1 star, 8 planets, and various small bodies. Nothing unusual. Vexhai looked at the display showing the yellow star ahead. "Any signs of intelligent life?" "Negative, sir. We detect some radio signals from the 3rd planet, but they are very primitive. The inhabitants appear to be pre-space technology. They have not even achieved fusion power yet." The commander nodded. This was typical of most worlds they found. The galaxy was full of primitive species that would take thousands of years to develop space travel. The Empire usually left them alone unless they had something valuable to offer. "Take us into the system," Vexhai ordered. "We will establish mining rights on the asteroid belt and the outer moons. Standard procedure." The Iron Talon and its escort fleet of 12 ships moved into the solar system. Their powerful engines bent space around them, allowing faster-than-light travel even within a star system. To them, this was routine exploration of empty territory. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen was working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station when her instruments went crazy. Energy signatures unlike anything she had ever seen were moving through the outer solar system. They were clearly artificial and incredibly advanced. "This is it," she whispered, her hands shaking as she adjusted her equipment. "They are here." She immediately called Admiral Chen Liu at the newly built Earth Defense Command. The Admiral was her brother, and one of the few people who believed her theories about intelligent alien life. "Sarah, what have you found?" the Admiral asked, his voice tight with concern. "Multiple large objects moving through the Jupiter region. They are using some kind of propulsion system that bends space. Liu, these are not natural phenomena. We are looking at alien spacecraft." Admiral Liu felt his stomach drop. Earth had been preparing for this possibility for decades, but somehow he had hoped it would never happen. Humanity was not ready for contact with advanced alien civilizations. "How many ships?" he asked. 13 separate energy signatures. The largest one is massive, probably over 2 kilometers long. They are moving toward the asteroid belt. Within an hour, every defense station on Earth was tracking the alien fleet. The space telescopes captured images of sleek vessels with technology far beyond human understanding. Earth's small fleet of 12 defense ships looked like toys compared to these giants. Admiral Liu activated the first contact protocol that had been developed by the United Nations. He opened a communication channel using every radio frequency and mathematical sequence that scientists believed might be universal. This is Admiral Chen Liu of the Earth Defense Forces, representing the human species of the planet Earth. We welcome you to our solar system and request peaceful contact. Commander Vexhai received the transmission while his ships were setting up mining platforms on a large asteroid. The primitive radio signals amused him. These humans were even more backward than he had thought if they were still using such ancient communication methods. "Sir, should we respond?" asked the communications officer. Vexhai considered this. Protocol said he should report any contact with primitive species to headquarters, but that would take weeks and slow down his mission. These humans were clearly no threat. Their entire planet could not even match the firepower of one of his escort ships. Send a basic response. He decided. Tell them we are conducting routine operations in unclaimed space. They have no authority here. The reply came back in broken human languages that the Zephyrian computers had quickly analyzed and decoded. Primitive species of third planet. You are in territory now claimed by Zephyrian Empire under Treaty of Nexus Prime. Continue your activities. Do not interfere with our operations. Admiral Liu read the message with growing anger. The aliens were claiming his solar system as their own territory. They were treating humanity like animals in a zoo, not worthy of basic respect. He tried again. This solar system belongs to humanity. We claim all planets, moons, and asteroid belts within our star's gravity well as sovereign territory. We request you respect our territorial boundaries and withdraw your forces. Vexhai actually laughed when he read the second message. The audacity of these primitives was entertaining. They thought they could claim an entire star system when they had not even built a single space station. Send them our standard response of primitive species, he told his communications officer. Inform them that territorial claims require the ability to enforce them. They may continue to inhabit their planet under Zephyrian protection, but they have no rights to space-based resources. Meanwhile, Vexhai's mining ships began harvesting asteroids rich in rare metals. His engineers set up processing stations on several of Jupiter's moons. The work proceeded smoothly. The humans sent more protest messages, but he ignored them. 2 days later, Karate Federation ships arrived in the system. Admiral Thessika commanded a fleet of 8 vessels that took positions near Saturn's rings. Her orders were the same as Vexhai's: claim territory and establish mining operations under the new treaty. Now Admiral Liu faced an even worse situation. 2 alien fleets were in his solar system, both treating Earth like an irrelevant obstacle. The Karate had not even bothered to acknowledge human communications. Dr. Chen watched from her monitoring station as the alien fleets divided up humanity's solar system between them. The Zephyrians took the inner asteroids and Jupiter's moons. The Karate claimed Saturn's rings and the outer system. Neither asked Earth permission. "They think we are nothing," she told her brother during an emergency meeting at Defense Command. "They see us the way we might see ants building a hill near a construction site. Just something to work around." Admiral Liu stared at the tactical displays showing alien ships throughout the solar system. Each one could probably destroy every human city in minutes. Earth's weapons were useless against such advanced technology. But humanity had one advantage the aliens did not expect. For thousands of years, humans had fought each other with increasing skill and creativity. They understood warfare in ways these spacefaring species had forgotten during their long, formal conflicts. "Contact the other defense commands," Liu ordered. "Tell them it is time to implement the Unity Protocol. All nations, all militaries, all resources. We are no longer fighting each other." The aliens had made a critical mistake. They had assumed that superior technology made them safe from primitives. They did not understand that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you do not take seriously. Earth began to prepare for war. The Unity Protocol had never been tested before. In 3 days, every conflict on Earth stopped. Wars that had raged for decades ended with simple phone calls. Enemies who had fought each other for generations suddenly stood side by side with a common purpose. Admiral Chen Yu stood in the new Global Command Center, watching screens that showed military leaders from every nation on Earth. Russian generals sat next to American admirals. Chinese commanders worked with Indian strategists. Israeli and Palestinian officers shared the same planning tables. For the first time in human history, every weapon on the planet pointed in the same direction. The aliens have made their intentions clear. Liu announced to the assembled leaders. They see our solar system as empty space to be divided between them. They treat us like animals who happen to live here. This ends now. General Sarah Okafor of the African Union raised her hand. Admiral, our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Our missiles bounce off their hulls like raindrops. How do we fight enemies we cannot hurt? We learn, Liu replied. We adapt. We do what humans have always done when facing a stronger opponent. We find their weaknesses and exploit them. The first human strike came at dawn. 3 Zephyr mining ships were harvesting an asteroid near Mars when human vessels approached. The aliens barely noticed a primitive craft until explosive charges detonated against their hulls. Commander Vex High received the report with disbelief. What do you mean they attacked our ships? So, the humans used some kind of suicide craft. Small vessels packed with nuclear explosives. They rammed directly into our mining platforms, his aide reported. Damage. Minimal to the ships themselves. Sir? But they destroyed 2 mining platforms and killed 37 workers. The attacks were savage, sir. They showed no concern for their own casualties. Vex High frowned. This was not how civilized species conducted warfare. In 200 years of fighting the karate, both sides had followed proper military protocols. Attacks on civilian mining operations were considered barbaric. Double the escorts on all mining ships, he ordered. These primitives need to learn their place. But the human attacks did not stop. They grew worse. Admiral Thesika of the Karate Federation faced similar problems. Human vessels appeared without warning throughout the outer system. They used tactics no civilized species would consider. They hid among asteroid fields and struck from ambush. They rammed larger ships when their weapons failed. They fought with a desperation that shocked the experienced karate military. They have no honor, complained Captain Mordak after losing another supply convoy. They attack from hiding like cowards. They destroy themselves rather than surrender. These humans fight like wild animals. What the aliens did not understand was that humans had been fighting wild animals, including each other, for their entire history. Every tactic the aliens called savage or auditionable was standard procedure for a species that had survived by being the most dangerous predator on their world. Dr. Sarah Chen worked around the clock in underground laboratories, studying pieces of alien technology recovered from the battles. Human engineers reverse-engineered alien materials and weapons with frightening speed. What had taken the Zephyrians centuries to develop, humans modified and improved in weeks. Their energy weapons work on frequency modulation, she explained to a room full of scientists. We cannot match their power output, but we can disrupt their targeting systems. Their shields deflect kinetic weapons, but they are vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses. Within a month, human ships carried new weapons designed specifically to fight alien technology. They could not match alien firepower, but they could disable alien systems long enough to get close. And once humans got close, the aliens learned that raw violence could overcome advanced technology. Commander Vex High watched security footage from a karate ship that had been boarded by humans. The primitive beings fought their way through the corridors with crude projectile weapons and explosive devices. They showed no fear of death and took no prisoners. The entire crew of 300 had been killed or captured. This is not how war is supposed to work, he said to his senior officers. Where are the formal challenges? Where are the rules of engagement? These humans fight like they want to exterminate us completely. Sir, they do want to exterminate us, replied his intelligence officer. Our translators have been monitoring their communications. They do not see this as a territorial dispute or political conflict. They see it as a fight for the survival of their species. That was a difference the aliens could not understand. The Zephyrian Empire and Karate Federation had fought for 200 years over resources and territory. It was business, handled by professionals according to established rules. Neither side had ever tried to completely destroy the other. Humans fought every battle like it was the last battle their species would ever fight. Fleet Commander Dmitry Kozlov led the assault on the main Zephyr base on Jupiter's moon Europa. His ships were smaller and weaker than the alien vessels, but they attacked with coordination that impressed even their enemies. Human fighters swarmed the alien defenses like angry wasps, accepting terrible losses to create openings for larger ships. They learn our tactics after seeing them once, reported a surviving Zephyr pilot. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. Every time we develop a countermeasure, they have already moved to something new. The aliens' greatest advantage was also becoming their greatest weakness. Their technology was so advanced that they had forgotten how to fight deity. They followed protocols developed over thousands of years of civilized warfare. They could not match the brutal creativity of a species that had spent its entire history perfecting new ways to kill. Human engineers welded armor plating to civilian cargo ships and loaded them with explosives. Human soldiers hid inside asteroids and waited for alien ships to come close before detonating massive bombs. Human hackers found ways to disrupt alien communication systems using modified television broadcasts. Within 6 months, both alien fleets were requesting reinforcements. What should have been a simple mining operation had become a grinding war against an enemy that refused to follow any rules. They are spreading throughout the system, Admiral Thesika reported to her superiors. Human ships now operate freely in sectors we thought were secure. They have established bases on asteroids and hidden weapons platforms throughout the belt. How many ships do they have? Asked the Karate High Command. We estimate fewer than 50 combat-capable vessels. But, sir, they are not fighting like a normal fleet. They fight like every ship is the last ship they will ever build. They sacrifice themselves to take out targets worth 10 times their value. Back on Earth, Admiral Liu watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Humanity was losing the war by every traditional measure. Human casualties were enormous. Most of Earth's small fleet had been destroyed or damaged. But the aliens were learning that victory was not just about superior technology. They expected easy conquest, Liu told his staff. They thought we would surrender when we saw their power. They do not understand that humans become more dangerous when they are desperate. The solar system had become a battlefield unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The great powers had declared their war over, but they had awakened something that would change everything. Humanity had arrived, and they brought their own understanding of what war really meant. Commander Vex High stared at the damage reports flooding his command screen. In 1 week, humans had destroyed 6 mining stations, captured 2 cargo ships, and somehow managed to plant explosives inside a Zephyr supply depot. The attacks were getting bolder and more sophisticated every day. "Sir, we have another problem," his intelligence officer announced. "The humans are no longer staying in their home system. We have detected human ships in the Proxima sector." Vex High felt a chill run through his scale body. Proxima was 3 light-years away from Earth. These primitives had somehow developed faster than light travel in less than a year. That should have been impossible. How many ships? "Unknown, sir. They appear to be using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors detect them only when they attack. So far they have hit 2 supply convoys and a communication relay." Across the galaxy, similar reports were reaching both the Zephyr Empire and Karate Federation. Human ships were appearing in sectors that should have been impossible for them to reach. They struck without warning, destroyed their targets, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Admiral Thesika reviewed the latest intelligence reports in her ready room. The humans had somehow reverse-engineered alien jump drive technology and improved it. Their ships were smaller and faster than anything in the Karate fleet. More disturbing, they seemed to have no regard for their own safety. "They use their ships like missiles," reported Captain Mordak. "When they cannot win a normal battle, they simply ram our vessels at full speed. We have lost more ships to collision attacks than to actual weapons fire." "Have they responded to any surrender offers?" Thesika asked. "No, sir. They do not seem to understand the concept. When we disable their ships, they activate self-destruct systems rather than be captured. When we offer terms for withdrawal, they respond with more attacks." This was completely outside the experience of both alien empires. In 200 years of warfare between civilized species, there had always been rules. Prisoners were taken and exchanged. Damaged ships surrendered rather than be destroyed. Civilian targets were generally avoided. Military bases were captured, not obliterated. Humans followed none of these conventions. General Sarah Okafor commanded the human assault on the karate base at Wool 359. Her ships approached the heavily defended station, using tactics no alien military had ever seen. Instead of forming battle lines and exchanging fire at long range, human vessels scattered into small groups and attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. Target their command center first, she ordered. Ignore their weapons platforms. We need to cut off their coordination. Human fighters dove straight into the station's defensive fire, accepting terrible casualties to get close enough for effective strikes. They used their small size and superior maneuverability to slip between the larger alien weapons. When their own guns failed to penetrate alien armor, they simply crashed into critical systems. Within 3 hours, the most heavily defended karate base outside their home territory had fallen to an enemy using ships that were technologically inferior in every measurable way. The human tactics were so aggressive and unpredictable that the alien defenders could not adapt fast enough. They fight like they have nothing to lose, one surviving karate officer reported. Every human ship attacks like it is the only ship in their fleet. They coordinate perfectly, but each individual fights with complete disregard for survival. Back on Zephyria Prime, the Empire's homeworld, military leaders were beginning to panic. What had started as a minor colonial dispute was becoming a serious threat to their territory. Human raids were disrupting trade routes and forcing them to divert military resources from rebuilding efforts. High Admiral Corthex called an emergency session of the War Council. "How many human ships are we facing?" he demanded. "Intelligence estimates between 200 and 300 combat vessels," replied the fleet commander. "But, sir, that number keeps changing. They are building new ships faster than we can destroy them. Their industrial capacity has increased by over 400% since the conflict began." "How is that possible?" "They are a primitive species." "Sir, they have converted their entire planetary economy to war production. Every factory, every resource, every citizen is focused on building weapons and ships. They have militarized faster than any species in recorded history." This was another concept the aliens could not understand. Both the Zephyrian Empire and Karate Federation maintained professional military forces, but they were only a small part of their overall society. Most citizens lived normal lives and contributed to the war effort indirectly through taxes and resource allocation. Humans had done something unprecedented. They had turned their entire civilization into a war machine. Dr. Sarah Chen worked in a converted automobile factory that now produced components for human warships. Around her, engineers and scientists from every nation collaborated on weapon systems that would have been science fiction just 2 years earlier. The boundaries between military and civilian had disappeared completely. "We have successfully tested the new plasma cannon design," she reported to Admiral Liu. "It uses alien power cells but our own targeting systems. The effective range is triple what we had before." Production timeline. "We can equip 50 ships per week with the new weapons. But, sir, we are running low on exotic materials. We need to capture more alien ships to maintain this pace." Liu nodded grimly. The human war effort depended on captured alien technology. Every successful raid brought new materials and knowledge that could be incorporated into human designs. It was a dangerous strategy that required constant aggression, but it was working. Fleet Commander Dmitry Kozlov led the deepest human penetration into alien space yet attempted. His task force of 40 ships had traveled nearly 30 light-years from Earth to strike at a major Zephyrian shipyard. The facility was supposed to be impossible to reach without being detected. "Remember the mission," Kozlov told his captains. "We are not here to hold territory. We hit hard, take what we can, and get out before their reinforcements arrive. Every piece of technology we capture makes us stronger." The attack on the shipyard was devastating. Human ships bypassed the outer defenses entirely by jumping directly into the facility's construction bays. They captured 3 partially completed warships and destroyed the rest. More importantly, they took hundreds of alien engineers and technicians prisoner. This was perhaps the most shocking development for the alien empires. Humans were not just raiding for resources. They were systematically capturing the knowledge and expertise needed to build their own advanced technology. "They are learning everything," reported a rescued Zephyrian engineer. They interrogate prisoners for technical specifications. They study our equipment until they understand how it works. Then they build improved versions using their own methods. Within 18 months of first contact, human technology had advanced by centuries. They could not match alien manufacturing quality, but they made up for it with superior tactics and complete dedication to the war effort. Human ships were crude but effective. Human weapons were simple but devastating. More disturbing to the aliens was the realization that humans were getting better at an alarming rate. Every battle taught them new lessons. Every captured ship provided new capabilities. They adapted and evolved their tactics faster than any species the galaxy had ever seen. "We are not fighting a primitive species anymore," Admiral Thesika told the Karate High Command. "We are fighting something that learns from every mistake and never makes the same error twice. They are becoming more dangerous every day." The war that was supposed to end all wars had created something the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity had awakened to find themselves facing a hostile universe, and they had responded by becoming the most dangerous predator among the stars. 2 years after first contact, the galaxy was no longer the same. The great powers that had ruled the stars for thousands of years now faced an enemy that had rewritten the rules of warfare. Human fleets operated deep in both Zephyrian and Karate territory, liberating worlds that had been enslaved for generations. Admiral Chen Yu stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defiance, watching the tactical display that showed human forces throughout known space. What had begun as a desperate defense of the solar system had become the largest military campaign in galactic history. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 12 Zephyrian colonies in the Vega sector," reported his communications officer. "They want to join the Human Liberation Fleet." Liu nodded. This was happening across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the great empires were rising up, inspired by humanity's example. The humans had shown that the mighty could be defeated if you were willing to pay the price in blood and determination. "Accept their surrender and offer them protection," Liu ordered. "But make sure they understand our terms. We do not rule conquered worlds. We free them." Commander Vexai's career was over, and he knew it. His fleet had been reduced from 30 ships to 8 in constant fighting with human forces. Worse, his territory was an open rebellion. Species that had served the Zephyrian Empire for centuries were declaring independence and requesting human protection. "Sir, we have lost contact with the Altair colonies," his aide reported. "The humans landed ground forces 3 days ago. Local populations are supporting them against our garrison." Vexai closed his eyes. The humans did not just defeat military forces. They inspired revolution wherever they went. They freed slaves, overthrew puppet governments, and established democratic councils. They were spreading ideas that threatened the foundation of imperial rule. "What about reinforcements from the home fleet?" "Sir, the home fleet is under attack. Human forces have somehow penetrated the Zephyria system itself. They are demanding unconditional surrender." Admiral Thesika faced a similar crisis. The Karate Federation was collapsing from within as member species chose to ally with the humans rather than remain under Federation control. The human promise was simple: freedom to rule themselves in exchange for cooperation against the old empires. "How did it come to this?" she asked Captain Mordak as they watched human ships surround their last stronghold. 2 years ago, they could barely reach their own moon. Now they command fleets that span the galaxy. "They fight differently than us," Mordak replied. "We see war as politics. They see it as survival. We follow rules and protocols. They follow only victory." The truth was more complex than that. Humans had not just outfought the alien empires. They had outthought them. While the aliens focused on military conquest, humans focused on winning hearts and minds. Every world they liberated became a base of support. Every species they freed became an ally. Dr. Sarah Chen, now the head of the Human Technology Council, had overseen the reverse engineering of thousands of alien devices. Human ships were no longer crude copies of alien designs. They were new creations that combined the best of both technologies. "We have achieved faster-than-light communication networks spanning 40 systems," she reported to the Military Council. "Our manufacturing capacity now exceeds both alien empires combined. Most importantly, we have allies who share our vision of a free galaxy." General Sarah Okafor commanded the final assault on Zephyria Prime. Her fleet included not just human ships, but vessels from dozens of liberated species. Former slaves fought alongside their liberators against the empire that had oppressed them for millennia. All ships, this is General Okafor, she broadcast. Today we end 5,000 years of Zephyrian tyranny. Fight with honor, but fight to win. The galaxy is watching. The battle of Zephyria Prime lasted 6 hours. The Zephyrian home fleet, once the most powerful military force in the galaxy, was overwhelmed by an alliance they had never imagined possible. Human tactics coordinated with alien knowledge proved unstoppable. High Admiral Cortex of the Zephyrian Empire watched his capital burn from the windows of his command bunker. Around him, his staff prepared for the final assault. They had lost the war, but they could still die with honor. "So, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer announced. "Put it through." Admiral Liu's face appeared on the screen. The human looked tired but determined. "High Admiral Cortex, this is Admiral Chen Liu of the Human Liberation Fleet. Your fleets are defeated and your colonies have declared independence. I am offering you the opportunity to surrender and spare your remaining forces." Cortex studied the human's face. There was no cruelty there, no desire for revenge, only the calm professionalism of a soldier doing his duty. "What are your terms?" Cortex asked. "Simple. Immediate cessation of all military operations, release of all political prisoners and slaves, dissolution of the imperial government and establishment of democratic councils, war crimes trials for those responsible for atrocities, but no mass executions, no collective punishment." These terms were far better than Cortex had expected. In the old days of imperial warfare, defeated empires were usually enslaved or exterminated. The humans were offering a chance at redemption. "And if we refuse?" Liu's expression did not change. "Then we continue fighting until your empire no longer exists. The choice is yours, Admiral, but the war is over either way." 3 days later, representatives from both alien empires met Admiral Liu on Nexus Prime, the same world where they had signed their peace treaty just 3 years earlier. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy as the second treaty of Nexus Prime was signed. The terms were revolutionary. Both empires would be dissolved and replaced by democratic federations. All conquered species would receive independence and the right to self-determination. War reparations would be paid to rebuild worlds damaged by imperial rule. Most importantly, a new galactic council will be established with humans holding a permanent seat. Ambassador Kreth, who had once celebrated the end of the Great War, now signed the documents that ended his empire. "How did you do it?" he asked Admiral Liu quietly. "How did a primitive species defeat powers that ruled the galaxy for thousands of years?" Liu considered the question carefully. "You made the same mistake that every empire makes eventually. You forgot that power comes from the consent of the governed. You ruled through fear and force, but you never inspired loyalty. When we offered freedom, people chose us over you. But your military tactics, your technology, your rapid advancement." "We had good teachers," Liu replied with a slight smile. "You showed us what was possible. We just found better ways to achieve it." The signing ceremony concluded with representatives from over 200 species pledging to support the new galactic order. The age of empire was over. The age of freedom had begun. Commander Vexhai, now a citizen rather than an imperial officer, watched the ceremony from his small apartment on a human-liberated world. Around him, former enemies worked together to rebuild what the wars had destroyed. Children of a dozen species played in streets that had once been battlefields. Perhaps, he thought, this was how peace was supposed to look. Not the exhausted truce between tired empires, but the willing cooperation of free peoples working toward common goals. The galaxy had declared the Great War over, but they had been wrong. The war had not ended until humanity arrived to finish it properly. Now, finally, there was real peace among the stars.